This is D'Lo Brown. You better recognize this. We are here live at WrestleCon 2017. The house is packed. The people are pumped. But I will tell you this. When you leave WrestleCon, you go home, you better watch Wrestling with Regrets, my boy Brian Zane. Now recognize that.
Hello everyone, it's time for week 3 of Wrestling with Regrets Animation Month. Before we begin, a question. When did Scooby-Doo start talking so much? Back in the original cartoons, Scooby barely spoke. He would grunt and occasionally string a couple words together with his trademark speech impediment, but these days he speaks in complete sentences. Maybe he's just learned how to talk more over time? Could it be an effort by the powers that be to give the dog an even bigger role? It's not like the entire franchise is named after him or anything. Shaggy's already enough comic relief for one team. Whatever the reason, I find it incredibly unsettling.
A talking dog?
Bizarre.
You know things are messed up when Goldust is the voice of reason. This week, we're hopping back into the Mystery Machine to dabble in some serious circumstantial evidence as we watch 2016's Scooby-Doo and WWE Curse of the Speed Demon. By far the biggest departure from wrestling at this point in our gauntlet of cartoon reviews, the WWE superstars leave the ring and hit the dirt track in souped-up muscle cars. It's basically the same premise as Crush Hour, just without all the violent, explosive death. We can only hope that the movie is more entertaining than the game. So, low hurdle. The movie begins at the time trials of the WWE Muscle Moto X Off-Road Challenge, a new venture spearheaded by Stephanie McMahon herself, hosted by Michael Cole, or Mikeel Cole, and with Kofi Kingston as the sideline reporter. Wrestlers are put together in teams of 2, or 3 if the plot requires it, and the winner of the 3-day race receives a $1 million prize.
It's 3 days, 3 races, and 300 times the action of any off-road race you've ever seen.
Hey, careful Vince. Do you remember the last time you promised fans a more exciting alternative to something? Shaggy and Scooby are running a food truck during the event, showcasing the world's worst business practices by eating food that the customers order, then giving away the rest.
Our super duper Scooby-Dooby sub sandwiches on the house.
Whoa, hang on, a 4-foot hot dog for $8.50? That's a hell of a deal, I'll take 2. The rest of the mystery team, who I feel would be infinitely more qualified to run the food truck, are just there to watch the event.
I should be studying about ancient Sumerian traps, but these high-tech race cars, they're just so interesting.
Whew, wow, Fred, that's sounds like a tough choice.
Like these DC pretzels are great. Wonder what the DC stands for.
It stands for Dead Man's Curve.
Or maybe it stands for the DC tie-in that happened in the last Scooby-Doo movie that went totally over my head. Thanks, comment section. The teams racing in the big event include Triple H and Stephanie, Paige and The Miz, Lana and Rusev, Los Matadores and El Torito, Sheamus, Goldust and Stardust, and The Undertaker and Dusty Rhodes. What kind of pairing is that? Is this a car race or supercard? Taker talks more in this movie than in his previous 7 years on television, while Dusty's only there to fire off some of his classic catchphrases.
Let me tell you what, we gonna make it to the pay window. We gonna get funky like a monkey.
He got a bicycle!
The fun that's had during the time trials is cut short, however, as a new challenger approaches. This demonic driver, this speed demon if you will, refers to himself as Inferno as his ride totals the Undertaker and Dusty's car. The Dream fights the Inferno, but ultimately falls short.
Oh, Dusty!
Big Johnny, my muffler fell out.
Inferno escapes as quickly as he appeared, as Dusty's injuries force him out of the competition. With the well-being of his talent in danger, Mr. McMahon calls upon this seemingly immortal gang of teenagers once again to try and solve the mystery. Again, literal Scooby-Doo villain! Mr. McMahon, you institutionalized your own wife after asking for a divorce, had her drugged up to the gills so you could make out with Trish Stratus in front of her, then you kicked Trish to the curb and made her bark like a dog in her underwear?
I would've got away with it.
Sorry, no talkie for you. That's fucked up.
Rust in peace.
That was actually a pretty funny line. A point for them. In a callback to the last crossover, The Undertaker refers to Shaggy and Scooby as the guys who toppled the Ghost Bear. But, no mention of WWE City in this one? We're not gonna follow up on how that project turned out, if it's still thriving, if it's a pile of crumbled bricks and Royal Rumble ribs. We're just gonna sweep all that under the rug then? Okie doke. We get a rundown of potential suspects with a range of motives. There's the show's producer, who benefits from the great ratings the Inferno controversy is bringing, the head mechanic, who's in dire financial straits and could benefit from getting some of the prize money, and even Mr. McMahon himself, who doesn't want Stephanie in the race and who always seems to go missing once Inferno's around.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to leave, and I'm fully aware this may seem suspicious, but it's not.
Oh god, please let Vince be the villain here. I know it's a red herring, but come on, make this happen. Shaggy and Scooby are recruited by Stephanie to take Dusty's place at the Undertaker's side, but they're still lacking a vehicle. Having become a master mechanic after less than a day of study, Fred helps the other mechanics soup up Shaggy and Scooby's food truck. But everyone knows that food trucks aren't known for moving fast. As Taker fights to get the sandwich mobile going, Inferno returns to cause more havoc, setting a wooden bridge on fire. Team Taker is the last to cross the flaming bridge, pulling off a stunt that would make Vin Diesel scoff. Before I get much further, I do want to give the brothers Dust their due, as all of their appearances in the movie are pretty hilarious. Though it makes me laugh even more to think there will be plenty of people watching this who have no idea that Goldust used to be an evil, androgynous living Oscar statue who would go on to get Tourette's.
It's not where we went that matters.
It's where we come from.
So, Planet Texas then? After a huge brawl in catering that includes Paige fighting The Miz, Rusev spilling wine on Stephanie, and Triple H coming to her aid by ripping off his suit to reveal his tights, some of the team switch partners. That night, Shaggy and Scooby get the munchies and head to the food truck.
Check it out! Enchiladas with tuna fish, yogurt, and chocolate sauce.
Guys, you're high, not pregnant. Our two heroes stumble upon Inferno meddling with the authorities' car. As they try to make their escape, we see a familiar face.
Who's awesome? I'm awesome. Who's awesome? I'm awesome.
But instead of being mauled by a bear, The Miz actually stands up to Inferno and fights back. Well, who would have thought the best chance we'd get for a Miz face turn would be in a cartoon? As the rest of the gang witnesses the fight, Inferno manages to escape the Miz's figure 4 using magic. Betcha Ric Flair wouldn't let that happen. Out of fear of her safety, Vince implores Stephanie to stay out of the race, but the billion-dollar princess holds her ground. It's the second day of the race as the vehicles get amphibious. All we need is for the cars to be able to fly, then this will turn into the Diddy Kong Racing sequel I never knew I wanted. Anyway, Inferno! Having had enough of the interference, Triple H gets on the hood of the car to confront the demon and holy crap! Beat that, Cesaro!
The King of Kings versus the Demon of the Derby. It's a fight in the fast lane.
You know, there's been more actual wrestling in this movie than the movie that was actually about wrestling. Inferno's vehicle hits the sandwich car and kills its engine just before it careens off a conveniently placed waterfall. But instead of being blown to bits, the Undertaker saves the day with a sausage rope, the least convoluted thing about this movie. With Team Taker's ride demolished yet again, the dead man contemplates how he's going to achieve his dream without the prize money.
To create The Undertaker's Comedy Theater and Puppet Jubilee.
I got nothing. Triple H and Stephanie have won the first two races despite interference by Inferno, prompting other wrestlers to suspect collusion.
We're victims, just like you.
We won today because we're that darn good.
Ooh, so close. Fred mods the Mystery Machine for The Undertaker, Scooby, and Shaggy as the teams prepare for the final leg of the race, a daunting climb up Dead Man's Curve.
I hope you did the laundry, folks, because you're going to need a clean pair of pants at the end of this one.
Wow, when the back of the DVD cover says not rated, I had no idea this is what they meant. Our old pal Inferno wastes no time in interfering, knocking out the Mystery Team's parachute for the big jump at the end and taking out Los Matadores and Rusev's car.
The Pamplona mashed like a potato. The Moscow Express ladled with pain gravy.
Mike Heel Cole, why must you anger me so?
I claim Demon Car for glory of Russia! Yeah.
Nope. The other cars have had enough as they all work together to try and take out the Demon Car.
Text the others, maybe they'd like to join the fun.
Paige, don't give them your phone! The Undertaker and Inferno have a final confrontation on the moving vehicle. As all of the cars make the leap of faith off the cliff, the Mystery Machine activates its grappling hooks and hooks itself to the Demon Car. Boy, good thing they installed those! The Mystery Machine places first in the race and wins $1 million, because of course they do, followed by the Undertaker who's commandeered Inferno's ride. Once they touch down, Taker and Inferno finally settle their score on the blacktop, with Taker hitting the last ride and even a tombstone. Don't try this at home, kiddos.
That one was for Dusty.
Really? Few people only had the energy to say, "This is awesome" in unison once? The Undertaker does the creepy tongue face, which I never needed to see in animated form, and it's time for some unmasking.
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch!
No, not really. Oh, well, I guess it's not a total shock since they're heels, but what? So it turns out that Triple H and Stephanie acted together in this demonic ploy, but how could Triple H be Inferno when they were both in the car during the races?
But you saw this. An inflatable airbag dummy.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, after all, this is the company that can make lifelike replicas of guys like Diesel, Heidenreich, and the Ortons on a week's notice. Anyway, Triple H and Stephanie took turns wearing the Inferno costume, which, okay, whatever two consenting adults agree to do is none of my business. While the person riding shotgun would control their car remotely. The two even fought each other during one of the races to convince everyone else they weren't working together.
Sorry about this, honey.
Make it real, Steph.
But hang on, if Stephanie was Inferno at that time, then who said this at the start of that race?
So long, suckers!
And why would the driver need to be replaced with a dummy? Wouldn't it make more sense for the passenger to be Inferno? And if Triple H and Stephanie were busy fighting each other, who was driving either of their cars? And here's the kicker, these two WWE executives risked straight up murdering members of their own roster, all to win this competition they themselves created and split, what, $1 million? I thought these two were supposed to be smart heels. As for Vince, we learned why he kept sneaking off during the races. It was to practice for this.
And the home of the brave!
Oh, son of a bitch!
Shaggy and Scooby give their winnings to The Undertaker and Dusty Rhodes. Taker starts working on his puppet Jubilee. I die a little inside. Fade to black. You know what, given the subject matter and the critical nature of my channel, I was expecting to give this movie a proper lashing, but I honestly can't do it. I liked this movie. I still believe the idea of mixing WWE with Scooby-Doo is totally absurd, and even more so when you remove the wrestling component entirely, but it seems to work here. Even though the authorities' motives with the bad guys make no sense, and the logic behind how they did it doesn't add up, it was still fun trying to figure out who was behind the whole thing and why certain suspects were too obvious. Except for Los Matadores, the wrestlers were really well written, and you saw character arcs that just haven't been seen elsewhere this month. And I'll admit, I laughed a lot during this movie, whereas I could barely muster a chortle during WrestleMania Mystery. In the end, Curse of the Speed Demon has its flaws and wouldn't be my first choice for family entertainment, but as a crossover, it's just that darn good. And hey, any movie that can get this line in is alright by me.
What in the name of gorgeous George is going on here?
Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, comment below, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
Here comes Speed Racer, he's a demon on wheels. He's a demon and he's gonna be chasing after someone. He's gaining on you, so you better look